So let's discuss why we are learning Formik and Yup. Formik is a form handler. It helps you to handle your form. Why Yup is a form validator. It validates your form. So to start with, we need to install the two packages, Formik and Yup. So let's start with that. So we run this command npm install. You can write it in full if you want to. Formik. You also need Yup. So let's install the two together so that we won't run them one after the other. Npm install Formik and the Yup. So it's downloading. Let's wait for some time. Okay, so we can start the two. Let's run this on the browser and see how this looks like.
Am I the only one that cannot see your screen?
Oh, sorry. I've not shared my screen. My bad. Please, can we see my screen now? Hello?
Yeah, we can see your screen now.
Okay. Alright. So this is the command I executed in the terminal. Okay, I think it should still be in the terminal. Okay, in the terminal, here in the terminal, I executed this command npm install Formik Yup. Then I pressed enter. Immediately you do this, it will download Formik and Yup for you. You understand? Let's do it again. Let me uninstall it, then install it again. So I want to uninstall it. I'm uninstalling it now. Okay, so let's run the installation again. Npm install Formik Yup, like this. So I'm installing the two together. It's possible for me to say npm install Formik, press enter, then when that is done, I'll press npm install Yup. But instead of doing them one after the other, I decided to do the two together at once. Do you have any question? Okay, so after installing Formik and Yup, let's first start with Formik. To make use of Formik, there are two ways you can use Formik. Either you make use of use Formik or you make use of Formik. So let's look at the first way, using use Formik. In fact, that one is simpler. It's simpler to understand or easier to understand. So we bring in from the Formik we installed, we bring in a React hook called use Formik. Then, well, as time goes on, because of this training also, you will see how you can also create your custom hook, your own hook. You'll see how to do that later because of this training. So inside the Formik we installed, there is a hook there called use Formik. So let's bring it in. Remember I told you that whenever you have a React hook, you use it at the top level of your component. So bring it in, use Formik. This we have to import it for us. So we brought in use Formik from Formik. And also in our previous classes, I explained to us that hooks are actually functions that you call upon. So you trigger this function like this. You save it as a variable. You can call it anything. You can call it Formik or my Formik. Anything. Just give it any variable name of interest. Let Formik equals to use Formik. So when you call on this is going to return an object, and that object will be saved as variable Formik. So let's console log this Formik so we see how it looks like. Okay. Let's fix this error. Let's fix this error. Okay. What's this? Now it's throwing some error and like let's fix that together. This when you have this, it expects something we call initial properties. You know when you, or initial values. You know when you have a form, your form will have initial values. In fact, by most forms, the initial values are usually empty string. So this is expecting something we call initial value. That is, let's say my form has first name, last name, email, password, and let's say confirm password. Let's say those are those things I want in my form. Now, oftentimes, it's going to be an empty string. Like all of those fields will be empty string. And we can say that those empty strings, they are the initial values of your form. So when you call on use Formik like this, it expects you to pass an object here. And inside that object, there will be a property inside this object called initial values. So this, whatever you put here now, will be the initial values of your form. Let's say my form will have a field called first name. So let me use my name as initial values. Like I said, oftentimes, for most of your forms, the initial values will be empty string. Maybe it's a registration form. Because I want to register, I want to log in. Of course, you won't want it to be pre-filled. Users will be the one to fill all of those things themselves. So for most of the use cases, the initial values will be empty string. But then so that we know when our form is working, I will just put a value here so that you know when our form is working fine. Then for others, I will set empty string. Let's stop there. We still have others later. So I think the error should go now. Okay. So look at this line 12, and that's where we console log our Formik. Let me explain what we've done so far. We brought in use Formik from Formik. We called on this use Formik. We pass an object. Inside this object, it expects a property called initial values, and it holds an object also. So this contains the fields that you will have in your form. In my form, I will have a field for first name, I will have a field for last name, I will have a field for email address. And whatever I put here will be the pre-filled value of my form. And like I said, for most use cases, this will be empty string, right? But so that we know when we have successfully connected this with our form. Remember, we will still connect this with HTML form, so that you know when we've successfully connected them together, when everything is working fine. I just feed this alone. Others are empty string. But let's log this to the console. Please, any questions so far? Okay. You can ask a question.
Yeah. My question is there any need for us to use a spread operator to in that initial value stuff? Like maybe if we have multiple arrays there, is there any need? Is there any possibility of using spread operator?
Spread operator. I don't get.
Yeah, like That's the initial values. You see
Okay.
there we are having arrays, different arrays there.
No,
Can one still use a spread operator in?
there is no array here. There's no array here. This is a
Okay,
this use for me is taking in an object. In this
okay,
object,
fine.
we have a property this and we have this. One thing we can do is this. We can do something like this. We can create this, then cut this out of this and assign it to this variable. So we have this. So what we are doing here is that we are saying let initial values be initial values. In year 6, when the key and the value, when both of them are the same, you can just use one. So this is what something else we can do. We can just create our object here as initial values. Then you put that here like this. We can do that. And okay, or maybe for the sake of, let's just say here so that you get what you are doing better. So what we're saying is that let the value of initial values be this A. A is this object. So let initial values be this A. But to make it better, I just use initial values. And in year 6, instead of repeating this, initial values is initial values. You can just write just one of them. Any questions so far? Can we proceed?
Yeah, proceed, proceed.
Okay. So let's connect this with our form. So we create HTML form. In this form, we have our label, let's be consistent. So label our first name. I just copy this, paste. Okay. So this form is standing on its own, and also our Formik is also standing on its on this our Formik here, like this. It's standing on its own. And so let's connect them together so that the two of them can work together. But before we do that, I need us to check out some things inside this Formik. Let's check out. Let's go to the console and see some of those things there. Now, do you notice a property here called values? Let's go down. There are lots of functions, properties, and the likes, but this is my, for now, this is my interest. Values. You see, the values contains our initial values like this. It contains our initial values. So we can now say that let the value of this input, let it be these values, let it be these values dot first name. Let the values be these values dot first name. So let's do that together. So we can say the value is Formik dot values dot first name. Now, instead of doing this Formik dot values dot first name, we can just easily destructure things so that we won't have to repeat Formik every time. In fact, we may not even have to repeat values also. What I'm saying is this: when you get to the browser, you see that the value of the initial value of the first name is there, and if you do the same for the rest also, it will work fine. But instead of repeating ourselves, because if we are going to do that of the last name, we also need to say Formik.values.last name, email, Formik.values.email. So instead of repeating ourselves like that, we can just destructure things. Remember, this is an object, as we saw in the console. Inside this object, there is a property called values. So let's destructure it out. This is an object. We are destructuring values out. So instead of saying Formik.values that's first name now, we can just say values.first name. So I'll still have, oh, Formik is not defined. Let me comment out this line since we removed Formik. Okay. So we still have this. Maybe you also, because for the last name also, we still need to say Formik.last name. Let's destructure this again. We can just destructure first name directly out of it. So let's destructure this first name, such that we don't now need to say values now. We can just say first name. Let's destructure last name also, so that it will be easy. Email. So this becomes value first name, value email. Any questions so far? Can we proceed?
Yeah, proceed.
Okay. So let's add the password and the confirm password also. Copy this. Paste. Just copy. So let's add these two properties to our initial values also. So we come here, let's go to the next line. Password, this can start as an empty string. Also confirm password, this also start as an empty string. Okay. So we have our form like this now. I think everything should. Password is not defined. Confirm password is not defined. Oh, so what is going on is that we didn't destructure them from this place. This is it. The error we saw is because of this line. This here, it can't find variable password and it can't find variable confirm password. So let's destructure them also from this place. So let's break it. I think this is getting too long. Let's just break it to the next line. Let's break this to the next line. Like this. Okay. So we have successfully linked all of them together. Then let's add our submit button so that when you click on the button, you can submit the form. Let's say okay. So after filling all of this, what happens when I click on this button? Right. You see, we're having an error here. So let's fix this. So what we want to do is that we want our form to work in such a way that when you, as you type anything here, inside any of these inputs, it will pick whatever is there and assign it to this value, to the value in our Formik. You know, we have these values here, which takes the values of things in the form, or which is meant to take the values of things in the form. So how do we ensure that this value is just what you see initially? What I'm saying is this: when I get to this point, this is just meant to handle that part alone, just that part alone. But as I edit the form, as I type something maybe in the first name or the last name, I want to pick whatever is there and assign it to this, to the values, to this, that is, change the first name to whatever, to the new value here. For instance, if I come here and I change this from Taye to Kenny. Okay, React is not allowing me to do this because we didn't add an unchanged to our form. Right. So so that what we want to do is that as you type anything there, you want to pick whatever is there and assign it to that first name. In fact, presently we can't even change the content of our form. So what you're going to do is that we bring in something from our use Formik called undo change. If you check the console, I've removed this. Look at something. Let's use list operator here. List. Please, who can remind us how list operator works? I taught us in the first or second class. Who can remind us how list operator works?
It adds new value to the existing value.
No. Thanks for your response. Okay, now, who else can remind us? Now, there's difference between list operator and spread operator. Even though the two of them use the same syntax, the two of them use triple dots. She talked about the spread operator, right? But what you are using here is lists. Now, this is how list works. When you have either an array or an object, and you destructure something out of it. Let's say I have an array and let's say my array has 5 items, and I decide to destructure the first item out of it. The remainder, what we have left, will be assigned to the list operator, will be assigned to this. So after we destructure values out, every other thing left will be assigned to this Formik. Do you understand what is going on now? After, you can watch the first or second video. After you destructure an array or an object, other things that you didn't destructure will be inside this. So other things inside this that this use Formik returns will be inside this Formik. So if I say console log Formik, you see other things there, but you won't see values there because I've destructured values, but others will be there. So let's go to the console, refresh. Okay, don't worry, we are going to undo this now. Now there's something here called undo change, right? So this is what we want to call upon. This function is a function. You can see F parentheses at the front. This shows this is a function. So we come here and say unchange. Then we say Formik dot undo change. Now again, I'm not comfortable by saying Formik every time, so I can destructure it out. I can destructure the undo change out. So let's do that together. Undo change. So we've destructured two things out of this returned object. We've destructured values, we've destructured undo change. Other things will be inside Formik. Other things will be inside Formik. So we do this now. So we can come here and say unchange. undo, change, unchange, undo, change. So do that for the rest, unchange. Any questions so far? If you are lost, please say I'm lost. If you are getting it, say I'm getting it.
I'm getting it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. So others, is it that we are not sure whether we are getting it or we are lost?
I'm getting it.
Okay.
I get it.
I'm getting it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So we can quickly revise what we've done. We can have a quick recap. You can quickly tell us what you've done, maybe in a minute or two.
Is it from the start?
Yes, just maybe in a few minutes, in a minute or two, just a quick recap.
Okay. We install Formik and Yup. So although I don't really know the implementation of that Yup yet. So but this Formik is used to handle anything from application. So and then when we import it, so we need to have initial value. So we need to declare initial value. So those values are the one that will be in our inputs, in our form inputs by default. So then it will be in the form of objects whereby we have property and the value that's going to be there. Then after that, when we try to console the form, it's just like an object whereby you have methods. So then whatever you want to use there, you can destructure them or use them directly. But in our case, we destructure values from this use forming. Then you want to use undo change because whenever we are changing that input, so it needs to reflect. So we need undo change method. So then we now create our destructor platform. So we connected it.
You've done beautifully well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you, son. Let's continue. Good. I'm glad that you are getting it and you are following. So next is this. When you click on this button, remember I said we need to get whatever we have here now. These things here. So let's see what happens when you click on this button. Refresh now. Oh. Okay, now let's fix this error. Do you mean HTML4? What is happening is this. 4 is a keyword in JavaScript. So in fact that's also the same reason why you can't or you should not use class like this if you are styling. Instead you use class name because class is a keyword in JavaScript. So because 4 is a keyword in JavaScript, we can't use 4 like this. Instead, we use HTML4. You know, this is a JavaScript file, app.js. So let's change all instances of Ctrl H. It's not coming up. Okay, let's do this one after the other then. We just look for all this to this. Do you understand? Because 4 is a keyword in JavaScript and this is a JavaScript file. So we can't just use this. We use HTML4 instead. So that should fix that. There should be no there again. Yeah. Now let's fill this. Let me fill my information. Oh, I think I've not added the unchange to this one. So why is this not changing? Confirm password. Okay. I can't edit this last one. Let's see why it's like that. And change, and they change, and they change. Okay. Probably. Okay, I think that's the reason. Now, let's fill our information. And then let's press this. Now, on submit of the form, you want to run some codes. In fact, what you want to do is that you have error, you have all of this. You want to get just the values. On submit of the form, when you click on this register, you want to get whatever you have inside the form, just the values alone. So let's do that together. We come here and you create, where is it? Inside this use Formik, we pass the initial values, right? It's also expecting that you pass something called onSubmit. That is, what happens when you submit this form? What do you want to do? And this is a parameterized function. You can pass values inside. So whenever you submit this form, it's going to run these codes here. Any questions so far? Whenever you submit the form, it runs that code. So we still need to do one more thing on submit. When you submit the form, you want to call on a function called undo submit. And it is that undo submit that will run these codes. You understand? On submit of this form, you call on undo submit, then it's that undo submit that will execute this part. So let's bring in undo submit. So we are destructuring, we are destructuring undo submit for this. After destructuring undo submit, you look it up here, undo submit. So now when you submit this form, it will run whatever code you have here. So what I just want to do is I just want to say console log values alone. Just the values. Let's see the values of our form. And you still, then you will see the need for one more thing. Come here. Formik is assigned whenever used. Okay, yeah. But for now, let's ignore the error. And let's fill whatever we like here. I'll just fill Kenny here. Now, we have this information. Any questions so far? Any question?
This I don't get it kind of.
Okay, this submission part, right, or everything?
Yeah, submission part, yes.
Okay, all right. Now let's go over it again. Thank you. You know, as when you click, this is a submit button, right? When you click on this button, you expect that it should submit the contents of your form, right? Have been now?
Yeah.
When you click on this button, you expect that it should submit the content of your form. But that will be possible, or that will only be possible by you coming here, by adding an on submit event. You know, HTML form. Let's come to vanilla JavaScript now. In vanilla JavaScript, form itself, a form has on submit event, just like your input has on change. You know, this on change is from HTML and JavaScript, not even from React. The only thing React is doing here is you need to write this in camel casing. But this on change is from HTML and JavaScript, not from React. React didn't introduce that. Also, this on submit event is from JavaScript and HTML. That is, what happens, or what function do you want to call upon when you submit your form? What do you want to do when you submit your form? That is why you use an onSubmit event. That is, when you submit this form, what do I want to do? Are you getting it?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we are
Yeah,
saying,
I'm getting
okay,
it.
all right. So we are saying that on submit of this form, call on this function called undo submit. So the question is, what is this undo submit doing, or where is it coming from? This undo submit it has already been defined inside your Formik. We brought in use Formik. Now with the structure undo submit, if you check your console, if you console log Formik, you will notice that undo submit will be part of those things there. So we are bringing in undo submit from our Formik. That is, on submit of this form, run the codes inside this undo submit. Any questions so far? Do you get it at that point?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
clear now. Thank you.
You're welcome. On submit of this form, run the codes inside this undo submit. And what this undo submit is doing is that it will now take whatever is inside that form and give it to whatever function you put here. Do you understand?
Yeah.
This expects it to pass something we call on submit, and this is a parameterized function. It is that undo submit that we now take whatever is there and throw it here, give it to this value. It's not a must to call this value, you can call it anything of your choice. But that anything stands for the values of your form. If I say console log anything like this, you're going to see the values of your form in there. Any question to this point? Do we all get it? Can we move forward now?
Yes, we can move forward.
All right. Then one more thing that I think it necessarily we do is this. Well, it's not showing error. It's working fine, but we still get to error handling. How to when we get to we are moving to Yup very very soon. We have just 10 to 11 minutes left. Let's quickly add this. Add a name property to your form, to each input. Add a name. It will help you when you get to Yup. Now, let's discuss why we need Yup. Maybe I don't want my form, inside this place now. Inside this place, you send your form to the backend. If you want to submit it to the server, whatever you want to do, exhaust.post, if you are sending it to the backend, you do all of those things inside this onSubmit function. That is what do you want to do when you submit this form? That is what you do inside your onSubmit. And of course, you want to say most times you want to send it to the backend, to the server or something. So you do all of that inside this onSubmit function. Now, but then maybe and you won't also want this. Maybe you don't want your form to be submittable. You don't want people to be able to submit your form if they don't meet some conditions. For instance, if they don't fill this last name, you don't want them to be able to submit the form. If you don't fill this email, you don't want them to be able to submit your form. If your password is not the same as your confirmed password, if both of them are not the same, you don't want them to be able to submit your form. And that is what Yup does for you. Yup helps you with form validation. It helps you to validate your form. It ensures that your users meet some criteria before they are able to submit your form. Do we see the need for Yup now? Formik handles the whole form. Yup handles the validation. Thank you. So let's bring in Yup. Let me just change this back to values. So that So, I was saying something the other time. Add a name property to each input. I think I was doing that here. Name. Because we need that also in Yup. Let the name be the name of these initial values. This. So let's do that together. This will be first name. This will be first name. Then this will be email. This will be password. And lastly, this will be confirm password. So what this is going to do for you is that it helps you to easily map this input with each of these values, with each of these properties here. It helps you to easily map them. So that when we get to errors, of course there will be error. That's why we are bringing Yup, because we know that there are chances of error. Right. So to bring in Yup, you come here and say import. Let me take this to the top here. So import all as Yup from Yup. Import all as Yup from Yup. We want to create something we call a shape. Now, in secondary school, let me ask you this question. In secondary school, how many of us did something we call paper mache?
Yeah, I did it.
Okay, so can you explain how paper mache works?
I think we cut different papers into a bowl. Then we add, I think, starch and gum that makes it glue.
Okay.
Then we add it to form what we want it to form. Let's say we want it to form a bowl now. We put it inside the bowl, then we move it around the bowl.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. So now, the way paper mache works is that, from his explanation, we uh, we get something we want to replicate. Maybe we want to replicate a ball. Then we will now put the paper mache around the ball. At the end of the day, the paper mache at the end of the day we take the shape of that ball. That's the same thing we are doing here. We want to create something like a shape, right? Then we now say, let our form take the form of this shape that we're about to create. Do you understand? So our form it will ensure that our form takes the shape of whatever we create here. So let's see how we do that. So we say this Yup dot objects dot shape like this. So what's the shape we want? We want the first name. How is he able to know the first name? Because of this here. It's easy to use this name property. So let the first name take whatever shape we define here. We can say that we want the first name to be required. That is, users must fill this first name. If they don't fill this first name, so an error. So we say Yup dot required like this. So okay. Oh, sorry. That's what's been Yup dot string dot required. So what we are saying is that this first name is required. Users must fill this. Oh, we have 15 minutes left, if I'm right. Right, 15 minutes. Okay, we should be able to complete it within that period. Yup.string.required. That is, users must fill this. Next is last name. We just copy this. Email, the same thing. Then password, the same thing. Then okay, confirm password. We are coming to that. Let's ignore that. That one takes it's a bit more technical than the rest. Now, although Yup has its own error message, right? It has its own error message. But you can define your own error message. What I'm saying is this. Let's assume a user now didn't fill this first name. What is the error that I want to display? So in that case, you put your error message here. If you don't put it, it's going to use the default error message, but you can set yours. You can say you must fill the first name like this. Maybe you want the first name to be minimum of 3 characters. If it's not up to 3 characters, you don't want it to be valid. You want it to be invalid. So you can come here and say dot minimum. I think it's getting too long. Let's just take it to the next line. That's minimum. Let's say minimum of 3 characters. Now, if a user didn't meet this criteria, what do I want? I can put my error message here. It must be up to 3 characters. You can also set maximum and the likes. Let's just stop. We are running out of time. Now, having set all of this now, if my form does not meet this condition, it won't submit. And let's see if that is true. Oh, sorry, one more thing. Presently, Yup is standing on its own. Formik is also standing on its own. Right. So we want to hook our Formik with Yup so that the two of them will be able to work together. But presently, Yup is on its own. Formik is also on its own. So let's bring them together. Inside Formik, there's a property there. You can set another property there called validation schema. Validation schema. And let the value be this, your Yup. So you can save this as a variable. You can call it maybe my validator. Const my validator equals to this. So you can now say this is my validator. So I'm saying that my Formik should make use of this Yup as our validation schema, so that our Formik and Yup now are now together. Well, I would prefer that this should be the same name as validation schema, so that I won't have to, this can be shorter, this line can be shorter. So this will just be, I'll change this to validation schema. So since this is now validation schema, I can remove this. Remember, if the key and the value are the same, then you only need to specify one of them. So now, if I didn't fill, if I try to submit this form now, you see, it's not running these codes. It's not doing whatever we have here, right? It's not doing that. So let's try to fill everything and see if it will. Now, you can see it's working now, right? Next is that, although there's an error, please, are we still together? Okay. Yeah. Although there's an error, users are not seeing the error. You want your users to see what is going on. Why is this form not submitting? What's going on? So that's the next thing we want to do. Inside your Formik, there's something there called errors. I don't know if you saw it the other time, but inside this Formik, there is errors there, so we can destructure errors out of. Is it? Yeah, errors. I don't think we need this Formik itself again. You can just remove it. Errors. So for the first name, if there's any error with the first name, I want to display it. So I can display it underneath this place. I can say, let's use the small tag. Then I'll say display errors dot first name. That is, if there's any error with the first name, put it here. Let's do the same with the last name, email, and password. Yup makes work so easy. So if you try to now submit the form, you see there is displaying this message. Let's say this is not up to 3 characters also. You can see it's telling me that it must be up to 3 characters. Any questions so far? Okay, let's undo.
So,
Okay, what is
so I have a question.
Alright.
In the code we are trying to run, in the yup, before the required, we put string there.
Yes.
So let's say we wanted our user to probably use his number to register. Is that string still going to be string, or is it going to be number, or is it a constant string? That was what I just wanted to confirm.
Okay, it's going to be string also. Reason being that by default, HTML inputs are strings. Do you get? HTML inputs by default. You're welcome, sir. Next is for the confirm password. Now, your confirm password, you want to ensure that it is the same thing with your password. So in order to be able to do that, you do it this way. Yup. The string, just like before. You now say dot one off. Inside this one off, that is, you are saying that this confirm password should take the shape of one of all of this. So say let it take the shape of one of password. So you can say you pass an array here, then you say yup dot reference. You reference this. You reference this password like this. What you're just trying to say in essence is that this confirm password is referencing password, and it's going to take the shape of whatever this password is. It's going to take the shape. So, and if it doesn't meet that, it will throw back an error. Let's also make it required. Or, okay, yeah, let's make it required. Also, if the two of them are not the same, what do we want to do? Maybe you want to display an error message. So let's put that here too. You can say password and the confirm password should be the same. Then, okay, this is getting long also. Okay, let's just put our required requires. Okay. Oops. So we have this now. Let's see if everything is working fine. Refresh. Let's see others are the same. Now, if we try to submit this now, we didn't put the error here too. Let's put our error in this final one. I'll just copy this so that we can see the error message there, in case the two of them are not the same. The confirm password is required. And if I put anything, you can see they are not the same. But once the two of them are the same, yeah, the error has come. They are not the same. So I think I made a mistake with should. Now, do we get the explanation?
Yes, sir, that was.
Thank you. So this is Formik and Yup, how you can easily use this to undo your form. So remember I said at the beginning of the class that there are 2 ways to use Formik, right? So maybe in the next class, if you won't mind, we can look at the other way, or we move to another topic in the next class. It's fine. But no, that second one is not as straightforward as this. The second approach is not as straightforward as. So if you're okay with this, it's fine. If not, we can look at it in the next class, I think. Alright, so any question before we go? Okay, so Unwoke Kingsley, you can ask your question. I think so. You've been raising up here for a while. You can ask your question. Are you there?
I think he has asked it already.
Okay. All right. So thanks for coming. Good night. Have a lovely night first.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, someone wants to ask this question. Someone is raising up his hand. Okay, Latif Olatayo. Oh, maybe it's a mistake. Yeah,
Hear me? Can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you now.
It's not a mistake.
Okay.
Okay. This validation of the thing. So is it advisable to have front end validation and back end validation,
Of
or
course.
just validation,
Of
maybe
course.
back end or front end?
You do both, right? You do both.
Okay.
The essence of backend validation is to
Uh,
secure.
um,
Okay, I'm sorry, you're still talking.
like I think both front end validation and back end validation, any of them is going to work at the front end.
No,
Is it not so?
no, no. Um,
Uh,
in fact, it depends. The two of them has different purposes, right? Front end, front end validation is
okay.
primarily for users to know what's going on, for users to know what's wrong, right? Backend validation is primarily to protect your own system. And the reason is this: people it's possible for users not to even use your web browser to visit your page. I can visit your page using maybe Postman and still feel the same thing. And in that case, I can escape your front end validation. So front end validation is for the users to know what is going on, but back end validation is to protect your system. So when you protect your, if for any reason users are maybe they're able to escape the front end validation also, and of course you don't just validate at the front end alone. You must never just do that alone. It's a big security risk. You must always do the back end validation. But front end validation is for users to know what is wrong. Back end validation is to protect your system.
Okay, okay. Thank you
You're welcome.
for
Yes, sir.
that clarification.
All right. Any other question in the next 2 minutes? I think we have just 2 minutes left. I'm trying to rush so that. Okay, your call ending under a minute. Okay, good night. Thanks for coming. Have a lovely night first.
All right. Good night. Thank you very much.